Okay, so I wanted to talk about something that's just been fascinating to me, which is the whole cash for clunkers debacle that's happened with the government. And I'm excited because I actually get to explain the whole supply-demand curve today. But anyhow, let's take a look at what economists love. We've got our price and quantity table here. And let's say I've got a clunker that I can get $100,000 for. Well, if everybody can get $100,000 for a clunker, then the supply is going to go way up. Everybody's going to want to sell their clunker. So as the price goes up, that supply goes way up too. On the other hand, nobody's going to want to buy a clunker for $100,000. So as the price goes up, the demand goes way down, so the quantity actually goes down as the price goes up for clunkers. So we got this interesting situation here where normally you would have, let's just say this is where the equilibrium point is. This is how many clunkers you would usually sell. So what happens is the government comes in, and let's say the equilibrium's maybe $1,000 or $2,000 per clunker. The government comes in and says, hey, you can get $4,000 for your clunker. And so they put the price way above where it actually is worth. And everybody wants to sell their clunkers, and they can because the government ensures they're going to get this $4,000 per car here. So you end up selling a lot more cars than you would have normally. And there's a lot more money made by the people who sell these clunkers. So when it's all said and done, I just got this off an article on the internet. It looks like there were $2.8 billion worth of clunkers sold, and that was about 690,000 clunkers. So some other statistics that are interesting are 8 out of 10 of the new cars sold were foreign cars. They were either Toyotas or Hondas or Nissan or Hyundai. And 10 out of 10 of the clunkers that were sold were U.S. cars. So all the top 10 models that were sold as clunkers were U.S. cars. So I found that to be very interesting that savvy buyers are buying foreign cars right now because they don't see a future for the U.S. car market the way it's going. Let's take a look at the consequences of this program. It's really fascinating what's happened here. So the first thing that's obvious is that the foreign car dealers made a lot of money in this program that only lasted for 1 or 2 months, I think, before the government realized we got to turn this off because we've sold $2.8 billion worth of cars, and that's something that obviously the taxpayers are going to have to pay for because the government doesn't have a ton of money sitting around. So let's see. The other thing that's interesting is while they stimulated the economy for those couple months, it's likely that those people might have bought a car in the recent next year or two anyhow. So what's really happened is potentially that all those 690,000 sales were just front-loaded for the next, for those 2 months. And now these dealers are faced with 690,000 cars that won't be sold gradually over the next several months now that the program's gone. So those car dealers are actually going to see fewer sales subsequently. A big hit with sales during the program, and now less after the program is likely to happen. The other thing that's interesting is maybe people would have sold or would have bought other things. They would have bought food, or they would have paid auto mechanics to repair their clunkers if they still had their clunkers. So the auto mechanics are probably missing out on some potential sales they would have had, and other industries, so let's say food or clothing or whatever people might have used that money for, but instead ended up selling their clunkers. all those industries lost out also. And I think that might have been reflected in the numbers. Some of the sales for other industries went down during the clunker program. So I'm not sure that there's actually a net advantage for our economy just based on this clunker sales. Another consequence people might not think about is who owns these clunkers and who buys the clunkers. It's most likely to be poor people or people living on the margin who can't afford to buy a new car, so they'll buy a less expensive car. Now, what the government did was they actually destroyed these 690,000 clunkers. So that's 690,000 cars that are off the market for people who might have wanted to buy one. So poor people are a little bit more up the creek now if they want to go out and find a cheap car that can get them where they need to go. The fact that the government destroyed all of those cars also is kind of like, okay, the government just purchased $2.8 billion worth of products, and what did they do? They destroyed those products. So now the government's stuck with a $2.8 billion bill, and that basically means that the taxpayers are stuck with a $2.8 billion bill because the government, like we've said in previous discussions, free market government doesn't own anything, so it has to come from the private sector. So we'll end up paying taxes for that $2.8 billion so that other people can drive their nice new cars around. Let's see. Another consequence people might not be thinking about is the more the government's interfering, the harder it is to play the stock market. So when the government puts a program in place for a couple months that's going to alter the way the car industry sales go, that's something that nobody knows how to play. Nobody knew ahead of time this was going to happen. It just happened. You don't know who's going to make the money, who's going to make the sales ahead of time. So anytime the government's interfering in what the normal process is for a free market, it makes it harder for people to play the market as investors. And that's kind of showing up on the 401k side. A lot of people are losing their retirement right now because of all the uncertainty with the market. When you add on top of it the fact that the government is interfering with the free flow of the markets, so it's nearly impossible to play the market when you don't know who the government's going to side with, which companies they're going to help out. So those are several of the consequences of this program. I guess the government's going to hail this as we have a greener economy now, so we can all feel warm and fuzzy about creating a more green economy with new cars that are getting better gas mileage. As we impoverish a lot of people, a lot of this money's gone out of the country to foreign car companies, so it seems like there's a pretty heavy price to pay in this particular example. But anyhow, I'll leave that up to discussion with everybody else. Those are the consequences I'm seeing. And I'm concerned that every time the government gets involved that there's going to be these sorts of repercussions. So anyhow, we'll see what happens in the near future. And hopefully this brings a little clarity to people as to what the consequences are, at least with meddling in the car industry with this Cash for Clunkers program. I think it's really funny that they actually stopped it after a couple months because they just realized, holy cow, this is selling really fast. It's a testament to the power of the free market. When a person knows that they can make $4,000 for the car that's probably only worth $2,000 or $1,000, they really go after it because they know that that's a deal they're not going to get in the regular free market. So, all right, take care, and I'll see you next time around.